Alexandra, and welcome to our new mini series of Top Engineering Challenge winners. Thank you for being with us here today. And Emotive has decided to create this new short series so that everyone, including our viewers and our engineers, can get to know better the challenge winners that we've had so far. The interview is based on 3 parts: the introduction, motivations for participating in the challenges, and to conclude, the final learning moments. Each section has approximately 4 to 5 questions where you'll be able to share with us your personal experience and winning or being a finalist in one of the challenges. So to begin, we'll be doing the introduction. So if you could firstly, if you can introduce yourself briefly.
Okay, my name is Jonathan Brown. I'm a retired geologist, and I have worked as a geologist for over 40 years, from everything from the federal US government to state government to private sector. I've owned my own sand and gravel business. And so I've had a lot of experience. I've worked in just about every sector of geology, engineering geology, economic geology, environmental geology. So I have a broad background in geology, obviously. I'm vacationing in Wisconsin for the summer. So that's where I'm participating from.
Okay, great. So for your studies, you didn't choose engineering, you chose geology, right?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then why did you choose geology?
Well, as a young boy, my father took me on a field trip to a cave system in Puerto Rico where I was born and raised. And so, I was probably 10 years, 12 years old, and walking through the cave and just looking at how that cave formed, because the river flowed through it and it dissolved the limestone. I don't know, it triggered something in me that got me fascinated with, rocks and geology. So when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to study. Turned out it was a pretty rigorous course that I had to take. But I got through and been working in it just about all my rest of my life. Now, the engineering side, I did work as an engineering geologist, which investigates locations for dams to make sure they're not placed on active faults, because that would not be good for during an earthquake. So, and then of course, working for various companies, I was exposed to projects that interrelated with geology, engineering projects, such as how do we get this mineral out of the ground easily and cheaply and things of that nature. So I got exposed through a process of osmosis where, being exposed to it, I learned a little bit about it.
Okay, great. And now we'll be moving to part 2, which is motivations for participating in engineering challenges. So I'd like to ask you, how did you find us? How did you find an Emotive?
I've been trying to recall how that happened, but it was through a challenge that was posted on the internet, and I can't remember exactly what the platform was that I found you on, but it was right up. I worked for a company called DuPont in Florida, and we worked specifically with removing black titanium sand from the sand and recovering that as a product. And so when I read this challenge about a mining company looking for a novel way to remove sand from the ground without using pumps and water because of the scarcity of water, that got me kind of interested. And you had a gentleman from the Netherlands or somewhere that did the ventilator that you sent me the example on. Remember
yes,
the
Freya Jensen. Yes.
Yeah. And he said, well, he focuses on things that are easy. He said that. And I thought about that. And I said, well, really, I'm not going to take on something I'm not familiar with, because how could I contribute in a positive manner? So I said, this one's right up my alley, in my wheelhouse, as we say.
So speaking of, the next question was, what was the challenge you participated in? And clearly it was the one of mining.
Yes, it was the mine tailings project, where the company wanted to remove a particular component from the sand, much like we did at DuPont when I worked for them. We were chasing a particular mineral, heavy minerals, and that's exactly what this company was interested in securing. But in that process, they wanted to also recover a pure silica sand. So they really wanted to remove what I would normally keep. They wanted to remove that as a contaminant and get the pure quartz to make glass with. So they wanted to start a glass plant. And so I thought I knew how to help them, and I submitted it and was successful. And I really enjoyed the challenge. It was very interesting.
And why did you decide to participate in the first place?
Well, to be honest with you, it was COVID. Here we are in our bubble, right? And so I got on the internet, and that's how I tripped up on, I think, Innomotive in the first place, was, doing that kind of perusal and looking through the internet. And I had the time. It was interesting. And so, yeah, why not?
Fair enough. And did you invest a lot of time in preparing your first submission?
Yeah, I did. I actually had it peer reviewed by a friend of mine who is in the same, he's a geologist as well, and familiar with this kind of project. And I had him peer review my submittal and help me fine tune it. So I wanted to be thorough. I wanted to be of help, and I was somewhat successful.
And did you want to win, or did you simply want to gain experience?
Well, the winning is always attractive, but in the long run, I think I mentioned to you that I wasn't the grand prize winner. I came in as a semifinalist, but to me, look, if somebody could do it better than I can, and cheaper and faster and quicker, kudos to them. I don't have all the answers, but hopefully they got some benefit out of my suggestions.
That's nice. And you did mention that did you have prior experience with this type of challenge?
Not so much with this challenge. I think this was actually the first one I did on the internet. And subsequently, I've done challenges for NASA on the shuttle from the space station to the moon. They wanted a new toilet facility that would work better. I worked on that, wasn't successful, but I currently have 2 more challenges that I'm involved with that have moved to the semifinalist position. And so I'm actively pursuing those. And one of them is mining with a large international company out of Australia. And so, I'm keeping my fingers in the pie, so to speak.
No, that's amazing. And what about, you said you mentioned 2 challenges. What was the second one that you said you're currently in?
I have 2. One has to do with a mining technique to get the heavy minerals that I've talked about earlier when I worked for DuPont. But we used big dredges and water and hydraulic to move the material cheaply from location to location. But this challenge is for arid parts of the world where water is scarce, and they don't want to use water for mining, and they don't want to, take up that resource, and they want to keep it for other purposes. And so I'm working on a way to do this dry without any use of water, and it's a bit of a challenge. That one, and then the other one is a solar mat that you can lay on a body of water, be it salt water or fresh water that you need to make more pure because you can't drink it in the state that it's in. So this mat floats on the water and uses the sun, no electricity, to evaporate the water, condense it, and produce pure water very inexpensively. Yeah, and that one's really exciting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay, and we'll be moving to part 3, which is final learning moments. So I'd like to ask you, for the challenge you participated with us, how did you come up with the solution?
I relied a lot on my experience, and then I also went on the internet and checked, is it still up to date? Is it still the latest and best approach? Are there new ideas that have been out there that I'm not aware of? I wanted to kind of do my own peer check with with, other scientists and geologists that have been working in this field. And I felt that it was up to date and that it would be, suitable for me to submit and not embarrass myself. Yeah.
And for the challenge, did you work independently or within a group?
Well, I did initially, and I think as I mentioned earlier, I did do a peer review with a
Yes.
fellow, a colleague of mine. And he pointed out some things that added to it, but the concept was basically mine, and we just polished it up.
Okay. And what do you believe are the benefits of working within a group?
Oh, it's, that's why wolves hunt in packs, because an individual wolf can be successful at times, but to be more successful, the more ideas you have, the more interaction you have with your peers and your colleagues, and even people outside your organization. It's important sometimes you get so close to a subject that you can't see the other side. And somebody who's not familiar with a particular topic, who may not be a geologist or an engineer, may have a wonderful idea that we missed. And so by having somebody like that, you don't want everybody to look like you and your team. You don't want everybody to think like you and your team. So it's good to have that the variety and the diversification of thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how was working remotely for a foreign company, and would you do it again?
I'm not the best. I don't have the greatest video camera, or I'm not set up perfectly for Zoom meetings, but I found it very, very interesting, very exciting, because you can reach out across the world and talk to people in other countries. I mean, you're in Colombia and I'm here in the United States, and it's just exciting to see that kind of broad thought process and interaction going on. And it brings us closer, it brings us together, which is always a good thing.
I completely agree. And my last question for you today is, what recommendations or what advice do you have to other engineers out there?
If you can think it, you can do it, but you have to think it first. If you don't think of it and you do nothing about it, even though you have a good thought, then it's a waste. So you should always take that thought, if you think it's good, and put it forward. Share it with others, and have them give you opinions and get some feedback. And don't be shy.
Okay, that's wonderful advice, John. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now the interview is complete. Therefore, I wanted to thank you once again for your time and for sharing your personal experience with us here at Enomotive, and that we loved having you.
Well, thank you, Alexandra. My pleasure. And have a great day.
Thank you. You too.